So ninth important question is, why do we need software tester? So basically this question they might ask you in this way, but you should not worried about much, but you should be able to explain your view about what is all about software tester. There are various benefits definitely we do get, our companies will get when they hire software tester. So one is by hiring a software tester, they can do a lot of testing against their products and applications, where by doing a lot of efforts, we can find issues as early as possible so that they can fix those issues and we find lesser defects in the production environment, and also it leads to a better quality software. That is the number one. The second one is the cost of saving is also very high if they are doing testing very early in the game, and return of investment also will be very high because we have done complete testing well in advance on the shift left method, so that number of fixes or number of efforts required to fix those issues will definitely reduce. Then the third aspect is again the velocity of the overall development also increases because they are able to deliver more things in a less time because we are able to do everything in the shift left method or as part of our software testing processes. Also, software testing we do as an independent entity so that we won't be biased with anybody, including development or management team. We are tester will be gaining lot of functional knowledge over the period that would definitely benefited as part of the overall software testing processes. Then the sixth is higher client satisfaction. These are the some of the six important aspects which you should explain if somebody asks you what is the really advantage we get when we hire a software tester, or what is the value which you are going to bring as a software tester, then you should be able to explain in this way. Then we will move on to the 10th important questions. So what is the difference between test case and a test scenario? When we say it is a test scenario, when we say it is a test case. The test scenarios we derive by going through the requirements or user stories. After understanding, analyzing the requirements and user stories, we will be converting those requirements into a test scenarios. In test cases, we convert the test scenarios to a test cases. In the second aspect here is test scenarios may not be very detailed one. It is just a single liners where we will be defining everything at a very high level. But in test cases, we will be focusing more on the detailed orientation. And in third, we will also be defining in test scenarios what to test, but we won't be defining what not to test and how to test. But in test cases, we will be defining how to test as well. In test scenarios, we will be more focusing towards the end-to-end perspective while we using test scenarios, but in test cases, we will be focusing more particular to individual feature. The fifth difference is the test scenarios will provide a easy view to product owner and product management to review the test coverage at higher level, because the timeline or efforts required to review the test cases in detail, it is not possible as well. If you are able to provide a test scenarios which are very high level, with the minimal time, the POs and PMs can review the test scenarios and they can provide their sign-ups. Next question is types of non-functional testing. This question I will be explaining in detail about each type of testing under non-functional testing. So what is usability testing? So this is a one type of non-functional testing. Here we are focusing more on the application which is more of a user friendly in nature. Here we will be testing more on user interface perspective and the user experience perspective. That is all about the usability testing. The second type of testing is load testing. So load testing here, we will be putting a specific load or a gradual load over the period load to assess how the application will behave. How the application will behave over the load, specific load, and we will be measuring those behavior as part of this load testing. Then the third is volume testing. So what is all about volume testing? So volume testing here we will try to put huge set of data into an application and we will see the application behavior, how it really responding if you're trying to put a huge load of data, whether there is any challenges in the application, whether application is really going to crash or application becomes very slow. Everything we will be testing as part of this volume testing. Then the fourth type of testing is stress testing. The stress testing is, again, we are going to put a lot of stress on the application to check whether the application can still withhold that stress or not, because especially when we're trying to put a huge load or with a huge volume of data, suddenly if application stressed out, then we will measure those behavior. Then the next type of testing under non-functional testing is configuration testing. So configuration testing here we will be mainly concentrated on what are the various different types of softwares being used, what are the different hardwares being used, what are the web servers are being used in order to work that application. So everything will be testing it, the different combination of configuration so that we can certify the application or a product with a given particular configuration. Then the next type of testing is compatibility testing. The compatibility testing here we will be testing the application or a product against different browsers, so different operating systems. We will be validating the behavior of the application on the different combinations of browsers and different operating systems, and again we will also be validating with the different screen sizes, especially if you are doing a mobile testing. So mobile testing and mobiles will have different screen sizes, and we will be testing as part of that testing we will be doing screen size validation. So that is all about a compatibility testing. Then the next type of testing of non-functional testing is security testing. The security testing here, our main goal is to ensure, are we ensuring we are doing a right type of security testing, whether are we able to identify any leakages, any loopholes, any gaps in the application where people can breach in to fetch your personal data or not. So we will be doing a lot of different types of security testing aspects to guarantee our application is very much safe, very much trustworthy. Then the 12th is, should we allow developers to close the defect? This is very crucial and important questions they will be asking, especially this is more of a great question we should answer in a calm and clear minded way. Especially this is a behavioral question. If developers say go and close the defects, being a tester, do we need to do that? That is the question, because that is where your perspective, your view you should explain. You should explain in this way. Again, the closing of the defects, whether developers will be closing or testers will be closing, again that will be defined as part of the testing processes. These testing processes will be defined by each and every company or the people on their own way. So whatever the way we define, let's say if your testing process says that your developer can only close the defects, that is fine. That is fine. If the process is not defined in that way, your process says that only tester can close the defects, then we should adhere to that. And also in the testing processes for a defects, we clearly define developers what are the status they could change. Especially if you can see here in this example, developers should have access to new defects, assign, resolve. These are the only three things they can do. Remaining stuff like create, edit, assign, postpone, resolve, verify, fail, and close. These are the some of the things testers can perform. But most of the companies are sometime what happens, especially in Agile, anybody can do any of these operations. So we cannot restrict, but as an answer to this question, it should be more of a generic one, and you should be able to define why sometimes we are very generic and why we are sometimes very specific in the testing processes. So what is scalability testing? So what is basically a scalability testing? The scalability testing, again, it is a non-functional testing. Its main purpose is to test, to find out whether a application or a product really scales with various different conditions. It could be your load condition or your stress condition, your volume condition, your response condition, whatever, right? So we will be trying to validate every aspects to ensure whether your application or a product which really scales or not.